All right, so I know everyone here is tired of seeing me up on stage, and this is the last track. So what we're gonna do is come full circle with everything, tie up all the loose ends, and there's gonna be 0 questions from you guys. So I wanna talk to you about the Ford developer site. So for starters, we're going to go through the development resources available to you on the developer site. I'm going to tell you how to obtain the app ID, which is something we kind of touched on earlier, and the support tools available to you, and also the documentation for those, as well as obviously getting into the car. So, developer site. Because I know all of you have already done this, I'm going to just reiterate. Go to developerford.com, sign up right now. You don't even have to listen to me for the rest of this. So the most important things, I guess, especially for development that are going to be available to you are the SDKs. Both our Android and iOS are going to be there in compiled binaries. So our Android library is available in a .jar. Our iOS is a .framework, I believe. Along with those are all of the developer guides, the best practices, a lot of the stuff that's already been talked about in great detail today in a PDF. So it's going to be a lot easier to read, and you don't have to keep asking Marcos questions. We have a couple tutorial apps. The Hello App Link. We're actually going to show you how to build Hello App Link on stage right before the developer, right before the hackathon starts. And again, all this is available for Android and iOS. So developer guide specific for Android, developer guide specific for iOS, etc. So, first things first. You want to get in the car. Do you know what you want to do in the car? And do your eyes pop out like this frog? So, once you have an idea, you're going to want to request an app ID. And to do this, there's you're going to go to develop, go down either Android or iOS. The link takes you to the same exact Excel, so it doesn't matter which one you go to. Although the form itself is going to want to know if you're doing Android or iOS. So this is kind of just a quick screen grab of the form. This is something that we can go over in a lot of detail during the hack. It's something you don't have to necessarily worry about right this second. But most important part, download it, fill it out, email it. And then it'll be a manual process, as Liz said, to get it taken care of. But right now, that's the way you're going to want to go to get an app ID. Support tools. So there's a bunch of different things that we have on the developer site that are going to help you develop your app. So the App Link emulator is something that is on the developer site right now. It looks exactly like one of these displays, and it acts almost the same. It's kind of our best software guess at what we can accomplish here. Although it is strictly an emulator, it's not going to hold any ground for validation testing or anything like that. Anything that you want to be fully vetted out that you know is going to actually work in a car, you're going to want to come to a TDK and hopefully test that out. This picture is obviously a little different than this one, but it's the same general concept. And this TDK resources will be available online. But this is one of the things that you're going to want to test with, especially because it's pretty much all but real world, what you're going to see out in the field. To get to your TDK instructions, it's almost the same as getting an app ID. Click on Android or iOS, doesn't matter, and you go down to using a TDK, download. And it will be a really nice multiple-page document about what everything does. And you notice there's actually a lot of complicated little buttons on the bottom there, and that is actually CAN simulation stuff. So it needs to be able to like fake being turned on, door closed, that kind of thing. All available in that document. Another thing that you can use to test your app, SDL Core, which I demoed earlier and showed you how to build. We're actually going to try having a script available before the hackathon that will actually download, set up your environment, and actually run your SDL core for you. Hopefully we'll have that before the hackathon. But again, another test tool. Obviously, your ultimate test tool is going to be an actual Ford vehicle. That's the only way that you're going to have the actual, factual, real-world drive-around experience of what your app looks and feels like. It's kind of hard to understand what your app is going to feel like when you're pushing buttons at a TDK and not actually driving around. Because there's different, you're going to be looking at the screen during different times, that sort of thing. So I'm going to talk about validation guidelines. To get to them, you're going to go to the test dropdown, go to requirements and guidelines, and there are two separate documents that you need. One is the checklist, one is the validation guide, and I'll show you and make it very clear why you need both in a second. As a general idea of what you need to go through to validate your app, there are more specific rules on the dev site, but as a general idea, for Android, you'll have to go through the checklist 12 separate times using different permutations of hardware, carriers, OS. And that's just because we've seen so many different phones and different little weird things here and there. And so we really want this validated. And there's just too many Android phones out there. So we can't just have you do one or two. We really do want to make sure that this works on all Android phones, so all users have a good experience in the car. For iOS, much more simple, because you don't have nearly as many different devices. So you're going to go through the checklist about 6 times with different permutations of device models and OS versions. So this is an example of the validation guide. And you'll notice here that I'm not going to go into it too much. I don't know if you guys can even read it. But there's prereqs, there's the actual steps you need to perform, and then there's the post conditions. And the idea is that you don't pass unless every single one of those is true, both before and after. And then this is the checklist. This is the thing you'll have to go through 12 times or whatever. So all those steps that I just showed you, that big long page, that only satisfies 411, the first little teeny white line up top there. So that's why, so you can't just guess at what phone not being paired app running means. It is really important that you keep referencing this and hopefully using this to go through line by line and then going to the checklist only when you've completed 411. All right, you finished with your app. Your app is appropriate for in-vehicle use. And on the developer site, we do have documents about what is appropriate. But also what is appropriate is obviously, have you followed the 4 developer guides? Checkpoint number 2. So checkpoint number 3, I have thoroughly validated my app, passes all tests and requirements, which I just went through. So, you're good. All checkboxes. You're ready to launch. There's a request to distribute link on the Ford developer site. That easy. Now what? Scott,